G'day and welcome to the Campfire Project. And today on the panel discussion, I have Julie Watson, who is the founder and general manager of Stronger Than My Excuses. How are you, Julie?
I'm great. Thanks, Alan. How are you?
Very good, thanks. And we have Karen Chaston, who is the co-founder of Chaston Centre. How are you, Karen?
Fabulous. Thank you, Alan, and everyone else.
Excellent. And we have Paul Lange, who is the co-founder of the Hedonist Entrepreneurs Initiative. And I'm having trouble pronouncing things this morning.
Mate, I realise it's a mouthful. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. And we've had a bit of a chat before, and we sort of had two subjects, but we think that they sort of overlap. Having an optimised life, and what positive things have come out of 2020 for us, the community and the world. And I think to have an optimised life, we need to take in consideration and look at the things that have come out of 2020. Now, I was wondering, Paul, if you'd like to start us off on the conversation.
Yeah, sure. So a lot of the times when I meet with people, they say, what is an optimized life, or what is optimization? And everyone has their own interpretation. If you look up the dictionary, people quite often say, oh, being optimized is about being the best. For me, it's not necessarily about being the best. For me, it's about readiness and execution. So optimization has both a state and an action. And the state is the possibility of being the best when desired or needed. And the action is the process of creating that possibility to be your best when desired and needed. And that can be on both personal and on a business level. And indeed, I've found over the years of working with people that when people are optimized in business, but not in their personal life, there's a huge disconnect in happiness, in satisfaction. And when those two, and it doesn't matter which way it is, but when those two are more closely aligned, obviously with some degree of variance, then their degree of happiness and satisfaction with where they are, not meaning they don't have aspirations or desires to go further, but their happiness with where they are is more aligned. And so, you know, I've quite often said to people, if who you are in business and who you are in personal life are not the same being, then there is a big disconnect. And it comes back when you look at leading an optimized life, you know, and especially when you look at it from that perspective of readiness and execution. And what I mean by that is there are always things which come across our path, whether bad, you know, negative, evil, bad, wrong, whatever label you want to give it, and really good, or opportunities. And when let's take those bad things, when you are in a state of readiness, anything can happen and you can respond, you can react and take care of it. Similar when opportunity comes across your path, but even better is you can actually create those possibilities, those opportunities to go and do something if you're in a state of readiness to be able to go and take and actually go and create it. So that's how I look at, you know, in a sort of high level, what having an optimized life is about.
Excellent. And with your work, Karen, you look at this quite a bit, don't you?
I certainly do. And I've found that to have an optimized life and to actually, I guess it's resilience as well, because we're all going to have things thrown at us. And it's about knowing that whatever comes your way, you are able to pivot. You know, 2020, let's face it, we all had to pivot. Sure, it's an overused word at the moment, but I think it's the best word to describe what most of us had to do. You know, I certainly did. And I'm very grateful for the way that I did pivot, because my life has expanded. You know, I now have clients all over the world. But what I've found is, and I totally agree with everything Paul has said, because when I was a CFO of a publicly listed company, I had a huge disconnect between me and my professional space. I was living in my professional space, you know, 85, 90% of the time. I was always angry. I was eating too much, drinking too much, working way too much. And it was only when I left that space and I started to do that journey into me that that's where it starts, is you've got to know who you are. You've got to know what lights you up and what doesn't light you up, and be able to say no to things that, you know, are not going to bring you joy. Sure, it might seem like it's going to bring you a whole lot of money, but if it's not going to bring you joy, it's going to be a really hard road to walk along.
Yeah, because the money certainly doesn't have any real value when you're not happy with it.
No.
Yeah, that's right.
Julie, how about you?
Yeah, so I think going back to what Paul was saying initially about an optimized life, is part of that is, yes, you're setting your goals and you'll have goals, but a lot of people live for their goals and forget about the now. Now is what is your life. So if you're sitting there not enjoying the now because you're waiting for your goals to happen, then how good is your life? It can't be, it's not fulfilling. So I think it's really important to have your goals, think about your goals every day, but don't dwell on them all day and be thinking, oh, I still haven't achieved my goals. Or, you know, for a lot, you know, you could have a goal that's a year away, and for that whole year, you're not enjoying your life because, and like Karen said, you're working away towards something, but what's happening in your life at the time? Are you experiencing joy? So I make sure that every day I experience something in the now. And I wrote down this morning a couple of things. I actually, I can't remember now. Charity groups I'm really grateful for, because I work with a lot of them and I just think how great they are. And it just sparked me because I saw something this morning. I wrote the Bolo because I'm going there for dinner tonight and I don't have to cook. And I wrote a name down of a person that is really supportive of my business. So I just think of 3 things every morning that grounds me and makes me forget about just always trying to achieve something that's out there, and brings me back to today and the joy of life right now, which is happening to us. And the other thing that Karen mentioned was about resilience. And I think a big part of that, and we've all experienced a lot of that through 2020, is that no matter whether something's happened to us or not, if we've been in an abusive relationship, or if we've lost a job because of what's happened through COVID, or if we've lost someone that we love, the things can happen to us, but the resilience is how, not only how we react, but the responsibility is we've got to take responsibility for bringing our lives back to how we want them. No one else is going to do that for us. And so to me, that, I guess that's what resilience is. But leading an optimized life is saying, well, you know, genuinely I've been a victim, but I'm not going to lead the victim's life. I'm going to push through that and change, and I'm going to have an optimized life by recognizing it's happened and it's genuine and those things are terrible, but I'm not going to let that rule the future of my life. So making those absolute decisions, live in the now and take your life forward in the way you want. And it is an optimized life, and you can't really do it without being optimistic. You have to have that optimistic attitude, I think, to live an optimized life. It's all you can do is be the best you can be. So
just on, you know, you're saying about, you know, living now versus 12 months, 5 years, or whatever in the future. And I find, not just with myself, but also I think quite often people like ourselves, we gauge things ourselves very well, but also with other people. When your focus is on, it's not to say don't have goals, but when your focus is, oh, when I have that, then it'll be really cool, and I'm prepared to put up with the crap in between and not enjoy the journey, not live for what's happening. And I find that when you do that, by the time you get to wherever it is that you say you're going to be, whatever you're going to be when you get there, you aren't even a shade of what it is you think you're going to be when you're there. And a lot of that, yeah, I know. And a lot of that for me comes down to the stories we tell ourselves versus the actual thing which is happening. I realize that's a bit more of an ontological approach, but really, you know, we human beings as experiential beasts, something happens, and through our paradigms and subconscious, we create this story about what happened, you know. And like that story just gets layered. It's sort of like a Chinese whisper. Every time we tell a story to ourselves, it gets layered and it becomes worse and worse and worse, or it can become better and better and better, but it's never really what happened. And so that victimization narrative that a lot of people have for themselves has absolutely nothing to do with whatever
No.
happened. More to do with
How
what
much
they
do you
keep
think
telling
that that's
themselves happened.
been increased in 2020 through the pandemic?
Oh, huge.
Yes. And to me, that ties in with, well, it was a big one for me. It was imposter syndrome. I have had imposter syndrome for years and years. I would walk into any sort of networking meeting or Chamber of Commerce meeting or anything like that and feel like everyone else was a real business owner. Everyone else had a real business, but I had an ABN, I had a business, I was running around building fence, I had a fencing business. I've had lots of businesses, but, and I still felt like they were all real business people and I was a fake. Even though I was a good talker, and I could communicate well and people mistook that for being really confident. I was not confident. I was always positive, but I would leave those meetings still feeling like, oh, they must think I'm not, what would they think of me? That story that I was telling myself was that they were all better than me in some way. And it took me years to really figure that out. That's why I've called my business Stronger Than My Excuses, because finally I realized the massive difference between being positive and being confident. So positivity got me through adversity, and we all need that. Don't get me wrong. I love positive culture and being optimistic and all of that. But until you can be confident enough to walk in a room and say, I'm equal to everyone else here, or you don't know them, so you have the potential to be as equal, better, or maybe worse than anyone else in that room, and not worry about the story that you're telling yourself that they might go away and go, oh, she's probably no good, or she hasn't got a good business, or whatever they might, the things you tell yourself that they're going to think about you. Until you stop worrying about that and just go, it doesn't matter if people think that. I know what I'm doing and I can be confident about it. And until I realised that confidence could be learnt through constant repetition of learning of, lots of positive input, then my life completely changed. Completely changed. And I became stronger than my excuses.
And the funny thing is, Julie, that everyone in that networking event was probably thinking exactly the same thing.
I know. And how do we not know this, even though we're told?
Yeah, exactly.
How do we make
we all deserve a seat at the table. The fact that we've just shown up, guarantees the fact that we deserve that seat at the table. Sure, they might be further down the road than what you are, but that's great because they can give you some tips. They can make that road journey a little bit easier for you.
Well, that's right.
Yeah, but it's about us having, as you said,
yeah,
the confidence to actually speak up and say, who else is feeling like an imposter here?
Yeah.
Who else needs help, in this part of their business? Because I'm really good at this other part and I may be able to help you with that, and vice versa.
Yes. And then you really don't know what they're going through. Like you said, they're probably all thinking the same. And, I remember one time thinking, talking to someone who I really put this person on a pedestal and thought, oh, they must be really rich and really well. Like, to me, it was all about what they had and what they were doing. It wasn't about whether they were happy or not. Or anyway, and I put this person on a pedestal thinking they must have, be loaded and all this. And I remember walking out into the car park and they just jumped into this really quite old, crappy, bomby car. And I thought, I thought you'd have, at least a Mercedes or something, because later on I found out this person just talks himself up and really didn't have, and that's round about the time I was starting to realise not everyone's walking out and getting in their Jag into the car park, and I'm just one of those people. I'm the same as everyone else in that room. And yeah, it's amazing when the penny drops and we have that light bulb moment. We go, what am I thinking?
There's a
Get
multitude
into
of
my own life and push forward with my own
Hmm.
ideas. Yeah.
I had a similar experience when I came back from Europe in 2006, because I'd either, because I lived overseas most of my life in Europe, US, Asia, and I dealt predominantly with, I'd either had my own businesses, which I grew, several of them I crashed, but I grew a significant number of very successful ones, and I'd worked with big international companies, so Euroclear Bank, Microsoft Financial Services, ABN AMRO Bank, these sorts of things, and government agencies. So I come back to Australia, and I do not have a network here, right? I mean, like, I've been away too damn long. And I fall into this micro/small business space, go to these business networking events. I'm like, I am like a fish out of water. And I can relate to what you're saying, because these people were actually had these businesses. For me, this up here was, you know, these bigger things, that was business. And then suddenly I think these guys have a business and I don't. Like, I got me, you know, shit. what am I going to do? And it took me a long time to get over that. I can't put a number on the years, but it took me a bloody long time to get over it, you know. And I went and dipped my toe back in the waters all the time of my contacts in Europe to stay sane while I tried to deal with everything that was happening here. One thing I would say, by the way, with regard to clothes and cars and stuff, I just take, you know, you're right. So many people just lather it on, right?
Yeah.
Look super duper successful, and some of them even have massive lease deals on cars that they can't afford as well. But then you look at someone like Warren Buffett, who's lived in the same house for goodness knows how long, eats regularly at McDonald's, and I think he has a 10-year-old or a 15-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. I should have made that point, that it doesn't matter what you drive. It doesn't matter if you're happy to drive around in that car, that's fine. But it was just it just brought home my how my perception could be skewed. Maybe I don't know how much money that guy's got. I know nothing about him, but it hit me like a ton of bricks that, why am I worried? You know,
because none of it matters, right? I mean, this is the thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
The people who you resonate, this is a message for everybody. Like, people you resonate with, you go to these networking events, you go to wherever, and you, as Karen said, you know, you're entitled to a ticket, a seat at the table. You are there, and if people are looking down on you or judging you in some negative way because, well, you know, the size of your business, the way you talk, whatever, as opposed to seeing what's in them for you.
Yeah.
Right.
They're not someone you're normally going to connect with anyway, are they?
No.
There's a lot about them, and it is all about them.
Correct.
Exactly. You know, everything we say and do comes back to our beliefs, the way that, you know, we want to interact, a whole lot of it. And it is coming to that realization, do you know what? That's not my crap. That's their crap.
Yeah.
And I've dealt through that crap in me. So obviously it's reflecting back at me. Is it reflecting back because maybe there's a little bit more for me to work on? Or is it the fact that I can now see, oh, isn't it great that I have worked on that?
Yeah. So to remember
that's the question.
To remember that everybody is different. There are no two people on the planet who are the same. Therefore, we've all got a gift of some form. We all bring something to the table, as you said. And even though others may have been running their business for some time, quite often when they're in a discussion trying to work something out, because they've been working that industry for so long, they can't see something that you can see.
Yeah.
And the solution that you come up with, they just find as mind-boggling, and they go, my God, where did that come from? So we put so many pressures on ourselves in that process. But if we realize that we are all different and focus on the fact, well, what does that difference mean? It means that I've got a quality that nobody else has got.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is about having them ask the question, isn't it? You know, so many times we think as leaders, we're the ones that have to come up with the answers. Whereas if we ask our staff and they'll just go, and you go, oh my God, that's so simple. Why didn't I think of that?
Yep.
And it's because we're going for this really has to be deep and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, no, it's get back to the old, you know, KISS, keep it simple, sweetheart, principle, and make it easy for our life. And I think that's what it comes back to is for an optimized life, let's have ease.
Yeah, 100%. I think For me, you know, I think everyone on this planet is God's gift to the world for something. You know, there's a reason we're here, and that's our God's gift to the world. But I think that I know for sure that all four of us, and alone the people watching this, will realize that none of us are God's gift to any of this stuff that we're talking about necessarily, because we ourselves are just working through it in different levels, different degrees, whatever. And it's the same for everybody. You know, just be there, find an area of your life which is not working 100% the way you would like it to be working, because maybe you don't have the possibility to respond to crap that comes across your path at any given moment. Maybe it's not you don't have the optimal possibilities to be able to take advantage of stuff. Maybe you'd like to go and do stuff, but there's things that are, you know, physical things that are holding you back to develop, whatever. And go and work on one thing at a time and optimize those things to go and improve your possibilities of doing whatever it is you say you want to achieve. There are so many people out there who say, oh, I want to achieve this. Okay, what do you need to do? Well, I need to, right. Well, imagine what your life would be like, or your business would be like, if 3 months, 3 years, 3 weeks, whatever ago, you'd actually started working on that. So now's the opportunity, right? Because there's always the moment now. Now's the opportunity to start working on whatever it is you realize you need to actually go and do to be able to achieve what it is you say you want to achieve. And before you know it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
You're so right. It's about chunking it down, you know, as Julie said before, you know, if you've got a year-long goal, chunk it down into weekly, daily goals, and then you are living in the now, you are achieving, and at the end of the day you go, wow, I've done that. Okay, that's off my goal list, you know, and that's how you achieve it. As you said, Paul, before you know it, 3 months is up, and you probably even, your goal that you originally had, you've outgrown it in that time, because through doing the work, you go, oh no, wait a minute, this is even better than that. And you just keep,
the goal can change, can't it? So I think with what you're both saying is leaning into what you need to do and not isolating about it. So I feel like sometimes you don't want to tell everyone all of your goals, because sometimes they're quite big and you feel a bit stupid because you're sitting there in your tiny little office going, yeah, I'm going to have this multi-million-dollar business. But if you can make sure that you tell people your goal, then just by saying that, even if it seems so far away, if you wanted to, you know, start a restaurant, for instance, and you just don't really know where to start, but starting a restaurant can seem huge. But saying that, just starting to talk to people about it, and someone says, oh, I've got a friend who's had a restaurant for a few years, I'm sure he'll give you some tips, or somebody somewhere within your group, your network will come to you with certain ideas. Or someone might say, a friend of mine was going to start a restaurant, but instead they did a cafe and it worked out much better because, and then that takes you, so by constantly talking about it and taking one little step every day, by leaning in, researching, talking to people, sending an email to someone, calling someone, one little step each day helps you lean in, and then it can change direction, like you said, Karen, and you end up doing something different. But as long as you're following a passion and you can feel it working, then that's all you need to do, is constantly lean in, lay one brick every day towards building the foundation of where you're headed, and amazing things happen. If you just sit there and don't take action, it ain't going to happen, is it, Paul?
Absolutely not. You know, and what you're saying is all about all about psychology, because within psychology there's the law of public declaration. It's when you can get someone who's a prospect or a client to say publicly, whether it's verbally, you know, to themselves or to you or in an email or whatever, that they are going to commit to X, Y, Z. They strengthen their resolve in themselves to do that. And it's the same when you go out and talk to people and say, this is what I'm going to do. Now, there's a caveat there, because you can talk to people who are super negative on your shit and they're going to like drain you. And so now it comes down to a little sort of add-on there of whether you've made a decision or a choice to do this. I'll give you the distinction for those who aren't familiar with decision versus choice. A decision is something which is fully based on consideration. and you are responsible for your decisions, but that with responsibility also comes a cop-out. You get a get out of jail free card. Now, a choice is pursuant to consideration. So you've had all that consideration over here, done all the storytelling, and you make a choice. And the reason you make a choice is because you make a choice independent of the consideration. So it's pursuant to, but independent of your consideration. And with a choice comes accountability. And accountability is something where you are on the hook. You have made a choice, you're accountable for it. Now, even if sometimes you cannot keep your word that you have made yourself accountable for, you can always honor your word. So in other words, I don't actually deliver it now, but I'm honoring my word. I'm actually delivering it a week later or whatever. And there is a difference between the two. So if you can, when you're going out and talking to people, a lot of people go out and they're like having this real sheepish, like, I'm going to go and do this. What do you think? Is it a good idea? Yeah, you probably made a decision. No, I think it's a crap idea for you. You really shouldn't do that. You were never meant to do that. Oh, okay, I'll go off and think of something else to do, right? But if you go out with certainty of what you intend to do, you have made a choice and you're going out, I'm going to go and do this. And it doesn't matter what anyone, your greatest supporter or the worst, negative person in your environment can say what the hell they like, and you're still going to go and do it. Now, it doesn't mean that you sort of go ad nauseum, because, you might fail forward 4 or 5 times and maybe it's waiting for that 6th time, but maybe you need to look at what you've been doing that hasn't succeeded so fast. But so there are always these little variances, but really go out, like Julie said, and declare publicly to other people with certainty, make a choice and declare with certainty what you're going to do. You'll be amazed how shit turns around for you. Excuse my French.
Yeah. I believe there's a mixture of things in there, because when we hear about, everyone's talking about what's your BHAG, what's your big, hairy, audacious goal that you got set up, and people are coming up with all these things, but how many people actually, complete those? And I think, as Julie was saying there before, it's coming back and breaking it up into components, so that as you're working through it, you're getting little successes. So you're getting feedback that you're on the way. But at the same time, if your BHAG is off track from where you're going to go because of situations and things, that new learnings that come along, but having those little checkpoints all the way along, completions, successes, etc., then as you realize new knowledge, then you can change your direction.
Exactly.
And you're still moving forward. So you haven't lost any of that time. But if you're looking at it, I just got this big job I'm going to do, and you're working away, and then you don't get it completed because you change direction. Now you feel like you've wasted all that time. But if you've broken it up, then you know that you've been on purpose to that point, but the purpose then changed and you just followed the pathway. It's like coming up to a fork in the road and going, well, I thought I was going left, but right looks a lot better, and just take that turn and you make that choice again.
And sometimes you do them out of order. Like I created my Live, Love by Design program years ago. And now that's the end of my Beyond Loss process. So it's sort of like, when I started to move from helping people how to live and love their life into concentrating on helping people to move beyond loss, I thought, it's a waste. And then it's like, no, it's not. That's just the end process. I just started backwards, which I needed to do, because where I started was the process that I was going through in my life after leaving corporate. So it was right. And then it was like, well, why aren't you helping people move beyond loss? Like, look at the way you've moved beyond, loss of your son, losing your job, all these sort of things. And then it was like, oh yeah, it all makes sense. So it's knowing that whatever you do is never wasted. It's just maybe out of order, or it might be just a slight little tweak that you require to make it sort of just fit better. And that's where we can be really hard on ourselves, going, I got the design wrong, let's throw it all out, as opposed to, no, let's just bring this component in and this component in and put this to the side, because who knows, down the track, I'm going to be a different person and I might require that. So,
Totally relatable.
I think you follow your energy. If you follow your energy, it takes you in that right direction, because your energy is where you're passionate. And that's what you want to live, is a passionate life. So, I get that. And the choice versus decision is very interesting. And I think the way I kind of read that a little bit to make sense of it for me and understand it is that when you make a decision, you're making it with the facts. Of course, you need to have some sort of input and make some good decisions. But when you actually become accountable, that's when you are willing to take some risks. And that includes the risk of looking stupid. I'm going to do this and I'm going for it. And there will be the people who are the negative Nellies, and some of them can be your closest people. Your partner or your parents or your family or your best friends can be going, oh, it's a nice little business idea, isn't it? So
I think that's most families.
so you need to just, okay, you might tell them, but you need to stop looking to them for support or being accountable to them in any way and saying, and just using that to drive you to say, I can do this, and getting on with meeting the people who are positive in your life and saying, this is the choice I've made and I am determined.
Yeah.
And the other thing about choice is not stopping. As you said, Paul, you might push it back a week because something happened, but you don't stop because you've made the choice. You've used your research, you decided this is going to be okay, and then you choose to go on that path, and nothing will stop you when you choose and be accountable to yourself and other people that you might bring along with you, investors or whoever it might be, but you've got to back yourself.
The biggest problem I find a lot of people have with choice is that when I say to them, why did you make that choice? And it's a trick question.
Yeah.
Because they all then say, oh, I made that choice because of X, Y, and Z, as opposed to I made that choice because of I made that choice. So if to give the most simple example, would you prefer tea, would you prefer tea or coffee? And someone says tea. Well, why did you choose tea? Because I don't like coffee. That's not a choice, it's a decision. Why did you I'll do this exercise. I won't spend the time here, but I'll do that exercise ad nauseum, and I can choose any, take any two items, ice cream, coffee, whatever. As long as they keep saying because of, it's not a choice. A choice is a choice because the choice.
And with what you knew at that time, you made that choice. If you had known more facts, like further down the track, you may have chosen differently. But it's like honouring who you were at that time that you made that choice.
So I often wonder how often when we're making choices and we're also talking to people that we're doing things again the wrong way around. We're asking other people what they think instead of, coming internally and going, okay, where is my purpose? What is it? As Julie was saying, where's my energy flowing? Where am I going in this direction? Then once you've worked out internally, only then ask somebody externally, and in that ask people who are aligned with your purpose and your energy, so that you're getting somebody who can support and give you valid support along the way, as opposed
give you a different perspective.
Yeah.
Have you thought of this or that?
That's it. But somebody who's aligned, who's seeing you going forward, because I know, well, with family, and quite often our family, it's not that they want to hold us back or anything else, they just don't want to lose us. So if we've got something and it really could fly and it could, we can become very successful and everything else. And they're going, but what happens when you become successful? We've lost you.
But the other thing, Alan, is that I think sometimes they're just not interested in what is your passion, and you've got to be able to let that go. So my ex, I used to constantly feel like there's something wrong here. I'd get all excited about something I'm doing. I'd go to him and say, oh, I think I'm going to try this. And I used to consciously try not to talk to him too much about what I was doing because I knew he wasn't right into it, but I still thought I needed his support. So I'd go and say, I thought if I do this and I do that, and then this and that's going to happen. And he'd start looking at his watch going, well, how long are we going to talk about this for? And I think, oh my God, you can't even just listen to this one little thing that I'm excited about. Yeah, but why do you think people are going to buy that? What makes you think anyone's going to buy that? And I'd be like, I'd come all positive, and I'd storm back upstairs to the office, really, really deflated and de-energized, and think this, that would put doubts in my own mind then. And I didn't doubt it for too long, and I'd get energetic again. But that happened all the time. And in the end, it took me a long time to realize, why am I even speaking to him about it at all? He's not interested. And so why am I putting my whole future business in his hands, or in the reactions I'm getting from one person?
Yeah.
And
who is not your ideal client.
He was, and he definitely wasn't. He's still talking about things, and we're complete opposites in that sort of, I'm glass half full, he's glass half empty, all of this. Anyway,
we tend to attract ourselves to that sort of people as well, though, and one things I find with a lot of people is that they have difficulty being present in a conversation. Now, and admittedly, there are a lot of people who just have this chronic complaint syndrome, that they just have to complain about everything. And then there are other people who occasionally need to vent, and it's okay to hold space for them. But in a normal, even in a normal conversation, I find so many people are challenged with being present in the conversation. They are too interested in what they want to say in response, rather than listening to what you have to say. And the way so many people are not listening. That's why they're not present, they're not listening. And the way you know that you're not listening, the way you know you are listening, is when you catch yourself not listening. And how often, even I do it, how often a day do you catch yourself not listening, whether you're watching a webinar or having a conversation with someone or what? And that's part of the problem. Being present and being taking in what's being said, so you can either be supportive if you have nothing to say, because let's be honest, you're talking to someone who is, like Karen said, not your ideal client. So the feedback they're going to give you, I got that as well, by the way. I think we all do. They're not capable of providing feedback. So the very best is they can provide support. Yes, darling, I think that's a great idea. I can't say much about it, but it sounds fantastic. Go for it. That would be the best response, as opposed to, let me now try and dissect this and give you some advice. Sorry, not looking for your advice. You're not capable of giving me advice, because in that context, because it's not your bailiwick. I'm not looking for advice. And I'm not looking for you to suddenly become a Mars versus Venus thing. No. So just be supportive. And I think I was going to say, oh, sorry, I won't hog it. I was going to say, everybody does everything that everybody does, they only ever do for themselves. And I realize a lot of people have a problem with that statement, but it's so true. It doesn't matter whether you're someone helping an old lady across the road, being supportive, giving charitably, helping someone, servicing, whatever. Every time we do something as human beings, we do it for the way it makes us feel.
That's exactly true. And a number of people get upset by that. And I just say to them, look, Mother Teresa did what she did because she wanted to do it. Beginning of the story, end of the story. And then people say, okay, well, I've just helped you out, so you owe me. I go, hang on. If one person's helped somebody else, they've only done it because it suited them to do it, and therefore they got something at that point. I don't believe in reciprocity. I'll help people, but they don't have to help me back, because I felt great in helping them. So I've got my reward.
Yeah.
To expect a reward back after that is wanting a double payment. And so I go, no, well, I'll ask the person. I might be disappointed if they can't help me, because it might be time constraints or whatever, but I'll go and find somebody else, but I won't hate them for it. I won't hold any animosity towards them, because otherwise I'm saying you've paid me, but now I want another bite of the, bite of the lollipop. I've already sucked the life out of it and there's nothing but a stick left, but I still want another one.
That's so spot on, mate.
Oh, it is. It's good. But I think, I really think that, so getting on with the 2020 and how it's affected us all, I think that it's made us all be more I was going to say considerate, but I think it's more considered. We're all thinking so much more about our life and what we're doing, and particularly all those people forced to work from home going, oh, this isn't actually too bad. Do I have to go back to the office? And, you know, a year ago, it was really hard to get any boss to let you work from home, really hard. And now they're going, wow, we could downsize the office. We don't have to pay all this rent and we're still getting productivity. And as long as they are, why would they need their staff always in the office? And I think you need the meetings and the discussions. And sometimes it is good to have that chat around the water cooler because things do get done in that way. But everyone is considering where they're at and what they can do with their own lives a little bit more. I don't know. Do you think that, Paul, like that we're now looking at, do I really, and like Karen said at the very beginning about working these jobs, that it's all about this work. And now they're going, oh, hang on, I could do a tree change, work from home and spend every afternoon walking around the farm or walking around down the beach. What am I doing working in this corporate urban jungle?
Sitting in traffic.
So do you think that's I think that's one of the biggest things everyone's thinking is.
I think one of the biggest things is what is behind Paul's head. I think more people have found love. Love for themselves, love for the moment. I know myself, I am saying I love you more to more people than I have ever done before. I've thought it, but I'm not going to say it. I think I'm a bit weird if I say that. But I say it all the time now, and I genuinely feel it. But I've done the deep dive on me for years. You know, I started, 7-8 years ago, and I feel that's what this was all about. It's time for people to do that deep dive into them, to find out who they are, to find out what they want, to find out what they don't want, and to stop all of that, because we've just all been so greedy and I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this. And you go, no, you don't. Your life's not going to change when you get that. You know, you probably will be elated for 15 seconds and then you'll go, is that it? Is that all I'm going to feel? I've been wanting this for years, and this is all I'm going to feel? 15 seconds of greatness?
That's part of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, isn't it? That growth is right up there. So you get certain things and then you get to a stage where it has to be growth. So it doesn't matter what your goals are. As soon as you achieve them, you need new goals.
Yeah. Oh, I read a book. I think it was once you achieve more than 75,000 a year, I think it was US dollars. There's nothing else that you really, that will give you that much more. Sure, your toys will get bigger, but your happiness and your satisfaction will not increase exponentially with that extra income.
It's no longer the external things now, it's the internal returns that you get out of it that become important.
What's the book, Karen?
That's part of the book. It's a really great book. I highly recommend everyone read it. It's called The 5-Hour Workday by Stephen Aristotle. And he owns Tower paddleboards, and he has brought a 5-hour workday into there since about 2014, 2015. And they all work 5 hours a day. And he found from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. was the most ideal 5 hours to work. You have lunch after you finish, because once you eat, you go down anyway. And he said they are getting paid for 8 hours. They work the 8 hours in 5 hours. And he says they've never made as much money as what they do.
Right.
Because we're knowledge workers now. We're not physical workers. Yeah. Great book. And I highly recommend it. I honestly can see the world going that way in the future. But it's, because as he said, you give people that extra time off every day. They are working on themselves. They are enjoying life. They're spending time in nature. They're eating better. They're spending more time with their family. They're not coming to work exhausted, but they do that 5 hours full on. it's like, you know, when you go on holidays, the last day before you go on holidays, how much do you put out in that day?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
well, that's what they do every day in the 5 hours.
Yes.
And as he said, what he found was they're actually working for him thinking wise 24/7, because they're continually thinking in their downtime, how do I make my life easier at work so I can get more done in that 5 hours? And that's what he said. And he started it off with it's a trial. It's a summer trial, because we have longer daylight hours in summer, and you can then enjoy outside of work. And if it fails, it's just a summer trial. It's not a failure. It's just works only in summer. But they achieve so much. They've been doing it now for years. And it's a different way of looking at things. But as he says in the book, the 8-hour day came from Henry Ford. Before that, everyone worked 12 hours a day. It wasn't any government initiative. It wasn't anything. Henry just brought in the 8-hour day to get better workers. And he knew that people would come and work for him because they were working 4 less hours a day and getting more money.
Yeah.
And then 30 years later, it became a government requirement. Everyone does 8 hours. So it's just through us thinking differently. And I'm sure the world is coming to the stage that, you know what? Why are we at work for 8, 10, 12 hours and only producing 5 hours of work?
I know. I really need that.
Look at Richard.
Read the book. It's
right?
so enlightening. It's a really great book.
Yeah, I was going to say, look at Richard Branson headquarters. I realize a lot of people quote Richard Branson, but his global headquarters, the way they work is, there are employment contracts, but there are no fixed hours. There are no fixed days. There is no fixed place where you must work. The only thing that you must commit to and be accountable for is that your work always impacts positively up and down chain. So, you know, if people have an input process into your work and you have an output process into other people's work, and or other way around, sorry. And so everybody has to make sure that the work that is necessary gets done. It's why I've said for a long time, the concept of KPIs as key performance indicator is actually a killer of productivity, because it creates a level where everyone shoots to it, that everyone shoots to achieve. And once I've achieved it, yeah, that's it. I, you know, go beyond. And when you don't have those KPIs, but you have this flexible work environment.
Google do the same thing, Paul. Google's head office, they can come and go anytime they like, but what they have is all that flexibility, but free food. They have a restaurant in there which they can eat. So they all like to go in, because then they don't have to cook for themselves, and they stay all day and they can just hang out with their friends for a while, not have to work, and then they go back and they can do whatever they like. But as long as they're, well, productive, I guess is the word I would use. But I really like the idea of the 5-hour workday, because I've noticed lately how much fluffing around I'm doing. I get my list, which is always massive, and I never get through it all. And then I look at it and go, how could I not have got all that done? It wasn't actually, and then I do the thing. Some of it really could have been put off to the next day, or even the next month, or even till next year. Some of it is...
There's a process called the placemat theory, which you could use to do your to-do list. And that's where you put just today's to-dos in, and then you put the other ones for another time into it. And when you put the other ones in the other one, you say, and I'll give that to the universe to do, and I'll give that to the universe to do. And when you move them into today's, they go like that, because the universe has already paved the way for you. It's a really great process.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So the thing that I'm noticing is a lot of, well, time management. You know, you look at what Henry Ford did, you know, bring it down to 8 hours. Well, of course, he knew that people were more productive in that period of time than the 12 hours. We then brought out time management. We removed the water cooler, we removed the coffee machines and everything, and also everything's in working, in reaching distance. We ended up with obesity. We ended up with people not connecting and not talking. We then had these KPIs which don't work. I see some of the networks I'm involved with, some of the networks are very focused on KPIs, and others are just focused on getting things done. And those ones who are focused on just getting things done and being there and supporting and collaborating are doing a hell of a lot more KPIs than those that are focused on the KPIs.
Yeah.
And so we know that, as they said, that in a business that was, and what got me, they brought in time management and took all this stuff out, that in a successful business, the most productive organizations, 2/3 of the conversation through the day was idle chit chat. It wasn't spreadsheets, it wasn't procedures, it wasn't getting anything done. It was a connection that people had. Then we have COVID. We're all working from home, and everyone said, well, what am I going to do? This is dreadful. Well, we started minimalizing because we had to put an office in the corner on the dining room table. We had to get rid of all this other stuff. So we cleaned out. We didn't need all those things. Then they did a survey to go, okay, who wants to work from home? Who wants to stay at home, go into the office, or combination? Those that wanted to stay going back into the office was a small number. Those that wanted to stay at home was much bigger again. But those that wanted a combination of both was massive.
Yeah.
Because people then, right, we're saving on traveling, we've got more time for this, we can get our job done in a shorter period of time, but at the same time, we still need the social contact. And so the actual staff understood, the management didn't. And I believe there is one company in America, something I've heard about 350,000 employees, and they turned around and said to everybody, you're not going to be working directly from home, you're not going to be working directly from the office, you're going to be doing a composite of both. And because of that, as you said before, Julie, they can cut down on a lot of their overheads and everything else. They can minimize the size of the businesses, different people coming in at different days, mixing the connections up, socializing and everything else, breaking down little niche groups, the niches that get together and don't have political centers and everything else, break all that up, turn it back into a social place, because work should be social. It's far more productive when it is.
Yep, I agree. So back on 2020, I guess, if someone had asked anyone 5 years ago what 2020 would look like, I think there are probably only a handful of people in the world who might have had some inkling of an idea. The generational family of Nostradamus or something might have been able to predict it. I don't know.
Oh, Bill Gates reckons he did.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of, then again, the Rockefeller Foundation did a pretty good job in 2010 as well. But besides that, thinking, for the average person and above average person on the street and in business, looking at 2020 and what we do and don't know about it, where are you going to be in 2025? How are you going to optimize what you're doing, how you're living, how you're doing your business?
Yeah.
And be prepared for what may not come down the pipeline over the next 5 years.
Yeah. One thing I've noticed about 2020 that's really hit home to me is don't put anything off. Do it today. Like how many places have we all said, oh, I'll visit there one day? You know, it's now going to probably be 2025 before you may even get there. So that's a really great lesson, I feel, is if you think it, do it. Don't procrastinate about it. It's come to you for a reason. Do it. Just do it. The old Nike saying, or I think it's Nike, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's Nike.
Just do it. Yeah. And it just makes sense. Like, don't wait around, because then if we do it, we will then learn and grow from it. And by 2025, who knows where we'll be, but we'll be ready for it.
That's right.
That's especially quick. Sorry, I was going to say it's especially valid with regard to any content that you create or any ideas you have. If you make these little notes, I know so many people, including myself, make these little notes, and then I'll get back to that. I'll create a video, I'll create a podcast, I'll create a blog, or I'll create a meme about that, and they never do.
Yeah.
But there's gold, there are diamonds in that stuff. Get it done, get it out there, public declaration again, and build. Allow that to be something on which you build and go forward, because if it stays up here. I had this conversation with my 7-year-old son the other day. He's like, I said, you're on the phone, you're not getting on the tab, you're not building your creativity. So I'm very creative. I can think of 100 ways to do X, Y, Z. So yeah, great. Creativity starts here, but it finds expression in the physical realm. And until you get out of here and onto here, out here, it's limited in what it can do, because it's only when you get down the physical realm you can share it with people and they can take it and go further. I said, if someone had never taken the creativity of a mobile phone out of their head, and put it into reality, you wouldn't have something to play on.
That's right.
And that wouldn't have created places like we are now.
Yeah.
Like, imagine 2020 if we hadn't have had, like, Zoom wasn't around 10 years ago. Just imagine all of these things that we have used and run with if this had happened 20 years ago. We all would have been a lot more isolated. We all would have been really feeling a lot harder. You know, the community in us would have been, oh my God, I am really in survival right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think what Paul's just saying goes back to that 5-hour workday that you were saying, Karen.
Yeah.
Because those ideas, you do put them down. And the reason you don't do them is because you do something else that might be working towards your business, but it's not always the most productive. Oh, I need to fix something on my website. That's not going to get you a sale. I need to, you know, there's all those little things we do. We all know what they are, little bits and pieces that are not getting us the sale or getting us to move towards those goals. And by getting those creative ideas into a proper timeline, and I've learnt over the years many skills with timelines and getting work done. And I know this is a bit off topic, but you know, I've actually read The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss.
Yeah.
And I've also read lots of books like 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and a few different ones, all about how to work your time, how to manage your time, basically. And because I have a bit of adult ADD, I still have to remind myself to come back to it. And I do some of those. I come back to those skills, and once I use them again, they come in handy, about eliminating things that are urgent and doing things that are important instead, all that sort of thing. So,
well, I know a lady, she has a digger. So every day you have to do a digger, and the digger is daily income generating activity.
Yes.
Right? So every day there has to be at least one digger in your whole to-do list. Everything else is okay, but you get your digger done first, and then you can go on with the rest of the stuff.
Like
By
that.
the looks of the guy's face, they like that one.
Yeah, we're both writing it down.
We're writing that.
Daily income generating activity, DIGA.
I can guarantee you
It's
most
not the
people
digger
watching this have
as in
just
the
been writing
Aussie
it.
digger, it's the DIGA.
Yeah, it's really
One
good.
of the things that keeps coming out there, though, is put it in action.
Yes.
Action is the most important thing. So you could read thousands and thousands of books. And my ex-wife stayed with me for a period of years after we'd been divorced, came and lived here for 3 years. And all she did every day was read books. She'd go to the library and come back with a bag that was that full. A couple of days later, she'd take it back and come back with another lot. And I used to watch her reading all that. And I go, great, there's a lot going in, but there's no action coming out. There's nothing being put out into moving forward or anything else. So from the day she got here and 3 years later when she moved out, nothing had changed.
Yeah.
Did she get bigger?
Oh, yeah. Well, that was the one thing. Yeah, she did put on a bit of weight.
Well,
but
she
what
did,
it came
because she
down
was
to,
sitting around reading. It was just logical.
yeah. So the whole thing is that, yes, read all these books and everything else and have the discussions around them, but put them into action. Because if you don't put them into action, you're never going to be able to optimize your life.
I was a seminar junkie, Alan. I was the seminar junkie for 25, 30 years, just going, listening. And I would go home from every one of them going, oh, affirmate. I've got to do 30 affirmations a day for 30 days, and then I'll get what I want. So I'd do that. And then I'd go to another seminar and they'd say, you need to do a goals board where you cut out the pictures and you put them on there. And all these things are great. But I thought that was going to achieve my goals because they did it and they told me to do it. So I did that. And then I'd do the next thing that the next speaker would tell me or the next book I'd read. And it wasn't until I went, wait, I can't do all that. If I did everything they all told me to do, I'd spend 6 hours doing things that would help me achieve my goals. And I'd only have 1 or 2 hours left to actually do anything. And even then I didn't have the confidence, so I wasn't doing anything. And in the end, my goals were out there. I had all these goals and I lived a disappointed life for years going, I'm just hopeless. I've never achieved it. I can't do it. I'm not doing it. I'm a positive person. I'm always happy. Why haven't I got all my goal? And then I realized that I just wasn't doing anything. I was just a seminar junkie or a book junkie. So now I do my routine in the mornings. Every now and then I'll read another book, but I do not make notes like I used to before. I just read it or listen to it or podcast, and I take it all in. And if someone comes up with one good idea, I think I can do that. That gratitude thing I do, I added that in because it takes, 20 seconds to 3 things I'm grateful for today. And so I keep it to really minimal, and then that works for me much better. But I do go off track. I don't do things every day, but I always come back to, no, you're going off track, come back to it. Like Karen's reminded me to go back and redo my time management, and I really need to do that. And I want that 5-hour workday book so I can just maybe get
Download it. It's an easy read. I
fresh
read
ideas.
everything on Kindle.
I don't think it's so much time management as priority management.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Manage the time.
that-
As we're getting to the end here anyway, I was just going to go around each of you and go, what sort of tips, what is the main thing that you've realized in 2020? What have you changed in getting that optimized lifestyle? If I could start with, say, Paul.
Gentlemen first. Cool. Yeah. So I'm gonna pick up on something pretty much everyone's said in different ways. Karen was talking about how we have an information and service-based economy and society these days, and it's true, we do. And although I haven't given up on industry and manufacturing, quite frankly, yet. And you're talking about taking action. It comes down, for me, 2020 has been a big year about knowledge. And where it connects back with what you were saying was that we can take as much information in from books and wherever, but until we put that information into action to gain an experience, human beings, Homo sapiens being experiential beasts, until we put that into an experience, that information does not become knowledge. It just remains data, remains information. So true knowledge is the result of putting information into action. And it's knowledge, irrespective of whether in manufacturing or in service and information industries, it's the knowledge that people pay the bigger ticket for. They don't pay for your half hour, as we all know. They pay for your half hour plus 30 years of knowledge and experience. And for me, 2020 has been a huge year, not in terms of forward knowledge, but in terms of reverse knowledge. Looking back at the knowledge that what I thought I built up over my 53 years on this planet, what I thought I knew about history. And I looked at it in a different way. And it's through understanding the past that we shouldn't be making the same mistakes as the past, whether it's our own personal or other people's mistakes. And through understanding the past, we can make better choices for the future. And we can be better prepared for the choices that are either in front of us or that we are going to create the possibility for. So for me, 2020 has all been about knowledge and being prepared for what is about to come in the next 5-10 years.
Okay, excellent. And Julie?
Yeah, I think I would, out of what I've got from today, is something Karen said, which is about joy and just loving yourself more, respecting yourself, taking that time. That's why I'm keen to bring my productive hours down so I can do the things that bring me joy today while I'm still building my business and still progressing forward. And I still have goals I want to achieve, but really being more productive. And the word I came up with earlier, which was being more considered, that ties in with that completely. In fact, it ties in with the whole conversation. Is we're all the knowledge, we're considering more with the knowledge we've got, how we can live a better life. And I think that's what everyone's started to think a bit more about in 2020. How can we live a good life, still contribute, you know, to society through the work that we do, but love ourselves and have joy. And I'm sort of doing that, but I want to do more.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
Beautiful.
And Karen?
I feel that this year has all been about us realizing that we are the master we are seeking. We know what is best for us. We spend so much time looking outside of ourselves, and that's what this year has been about. It's about doing the deep dive. You are not what has happened to you in the past. You are probably a person who you have lost in the process of your journey. And it's about time for us to do that deep dive. And when we do, we realize more than anything else how connected and how similar we all are. We may not look the same on the outside, but we are all basically the same. We're all looking for a fulfilled, happy life, one we can enjoy with our family and friends, and sure, make some money and live in luxury. There is nothing wrong with wanting to live in luxury. But the whole world can do that when we actually start to be who we are. And that's why I love what I do. And that's why I'm really grateful for our conversation today, because it has highlighted how important it is for us to really know what we're all searching for.
Mm.
I think that point of being our own master is so important, because if we take that approach, then we know that look inside for the answers, not look outside all the time.
Yeah.
You know, trust in ourselves in that process. And, you know, we're watching people who are succeeding in incredible ways that never thought they could before. That feeling of not being confident enough, or imposter syndrome and everything else, those things, when you think that way, they just dissipate. They disappear altogether.
Yeah.
And so it's, yeah, the answers are always within, not without. We look without, we go without. So thanks very much, Julie, Karen and Paul, for being here today. This has been a brilliant conversation.
Thanks for
I really
having me.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks everyone. I've enjoyed it too.
And to everybody who's been listening in, as I always say, follow these three people up, have a chat with them. If you've got some questions, put your questions in the comments field as well, and let all of them, you know, give you some answers there as well, and get some discussion going. Because this is, I think, how we stimulate what's inside, is by having conversations with others that then cause us to reflect. And when we reflect, we then realize what brilliance we do have inside each and every one of us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Thanks.
that you'll feel like you're living a more optimized life. So again, thank you, Paul, Karen and Julie. Really appreciate you being here. And to everybody else, we'll see you on the next campfire. Bye for now.
Thanks, Alan. Bye, everyone.